Hello, hi, welcome. It's a new video. It's Monday. Yeah, if you're new here, also welcome. Remember to subscribe. Eric has just taken Johannes and they're gonna go out to the playground, have some fun. They're also gonna do some shopping because we're out of candy, bananas, all kinds of stuff that you need. So I figured I would take the opportunity to make a video that I've been thinking of for a while. Now, in the beginning I did make a lot more videos on birth and specifically C-section because that's what I went through. And I haven't done many in the past like 6 months. So I'm actually really excited to do this one because it's one that's close to heart. It's a little bit about, you know, do we want more kids, birth, like what do you choose, like all that stuff. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so I wrote down some notes on my phone, so I have everything with me. By the title of this one, you also know that this is like my thoughts around birth, especially C-section, and also the question of whether or not to have another baby. I just want to say a really quick disclaimer. Obviously, this is like my personal thoughts and experience, so I hope that they can do something for someone at least if you're also thinking these thoughts, but otherwise, yeah, disclaimer, it's just my thoughts. When Johannes was born, like the first 6 months after that, I was very much like super positive about my birth, and luckily I still am. But one thing has changed. Those first 6 months I was all like, I need another baby, we're gonna have like 4 babies. Yeah, the hormones were for sure raging. And now I find myself being very content with 1. I also haven't shared, I think, on the channel before that Eric and I actually suffer from some mild fertility issues. Now, about a month, when I got pregnant with Johannes, about a month later we should have started IVF actually. And I don't know if I've shared that with anyone here, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do that. Yeah, I find myself being pretty content with 1. Having Johannes for me has been super easy, not meaning that there haven't been any hard time, but like the overall experience with parenting and having a child for me has been very easy and life fulfilling. I feel like my the actual meaning of life, you know, which is biologically also is, but you know, that sense of purpose, also having something in your life that is the most important thing, so it kind of puts all other aspects of your life in perspective. Relationships and friends, work, school, all that stuff. It kind of takes the pressure off of that because you always have something that's more important. Coming back to birth, the first 6 months after Johannes was born, I was very sure, and have always been very sure, that a C-section was right for me. If I were ever to give birth again, however, I am unsure. And I've had a few thoughts around this, and I think it's mainly because, like, what is it that you really want out of a birth? You want, you know, control, safety, emotional stability. You want to walk away from a birth knowing that your soul didn't get ripped, that you didn't have any trauma. And the C-section was very much that for me. It was the best birth experience I could have asked for. If you want to know more about my whole birth experience, I have videos on those too, so you can go and check those out. But since then, I've been exposed to a lot more information around birth in general, and both natural, home birth, hospital birth, clinic birth, C-sections. Like, I don't know, I think you're just naturally curious about this, especially after having a kid. And what it comes down to for me is the whole control and empowerment. I had certain fears when I was going to give birth to Johannes, and I feel like I didn't have time to process those. Also, I feel like I didn't have enough exposure, like in general, mainstream media, social media, to natural birth and like the things around that. I'm still entitled to think that the design of this whole thing, like nature's design of this whole thing, is a bit fucked up. But yeah, I don't know. I'm like 90% sure at this point that I would do a C-section again. But the other 10% is not even hospital or clinic, it's actually home. Because even though those two might seem as two opposites, it comes down to that like control, safety, empowerment. I also want to point out that I don't think that there's any form of birth that is better than another form. So choosing whatever you want. That is really my message here. Yeah. Speaking of, by the way, if you want exposure to natural birth and you want to hear more about all birth in general in a very nuanced and I would say neutral way, this account right here, Asabia, is really good. It's in Swedish, but yeah, I would definitely recommend. But one thing that the doctor said for me was that I had to go through like three talks to get my C-section approved, and on the third and final one, which was with a doctor, every single appointment they like measured him. He measured big, that was all that stuff, and we talked about my fears. But the last talk I had was with a doctor, and she said something that would, I think that's like, I hadn't understood then, but I understand now the impact it had for me with the whole control and empowerment thing. She said, let's book it in, and if you don't want it, we can just cancel the date. I'd feared a bit that I would be like begging to get this time, and like what if it doesn't get approved, something like that. She just handed over like all the power to me and said, I'll book it in, I can see that you want this or need this, and you know, if you don't want the time, we can just cancel it. So that was really important for me. Lastly, I just want to touch again on the whole like, will we have another one? And first of all, I think it's a bit still, you know, especially women would get this question like, when are you guys having kids? Yeah, we have a kid. Okay, so when is the next one coming? I've gotten that question for sure, especially within the last year. It's as if, you know, the older they get, like, aren't you supposed to have one more? I actually don't know if we will. I told in the beginning that we have some mild infertility issues, and we have tried after Johannes, and it hasn't worked out, and this whole hormone show is just not for me at all. I honestly did not think that I would share it, and I'm not going to share too much about it, but either way, we think that the way that we have life now is so amazing for all of us. It's so easy to have one. Our lives haven't really changed that much. Yeah, sure, they have a bit more structure. We get up at certain times, you know, every day, no matter if it's the weekend or if it's a normal day. But in general, all of that structure, I think, has just made Eric and I live healthier lives, so to say. With that being said, you also feel a bit vulnerable only having one. You love him so much. Like, if anything happens, I don't know what I'd do. I'm not saying I would have another one just for that cause, but it definitely strikes your mind. We haven't decided, but it's definitely not something that I want or are pursuing. We are also quite open to adoption, actually. So that might be on the table at some point. And either way, I think my message is just like, stop asking people when they're gonna have kids, because everybody is on their own journey. Okay guys, that was a bit of a mixed video. I hope that I can make it all come together when editing this. But otherwise, I'm just gonna take the rest of the time I have now and actually also make a DIY video for you. I post every Monday. If you have any comments or questions or anything like that, please post below, and I always read and answer, so more than happy to do that. Stay safe out there. I'll see you next week.